Welcome to my humble abode.
Okay, let's dive into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're cracking open the case files on 3 incredibly well-documented, completely harrowing anomalies that happened way, way deep in the woods.
Now, we usually think of the woods as a nice, quiet escape from the absolute chaos of modern life, right? But what actually happens when you leave the safety net of society completely behind? I'm talking no cell towers, no streetlights, literally no neighbors. Who, or maybe more accurately, what, is sharing the woods with you? Because out there, the normal rules of human interaction, they just completely evaporate. There's this massive, honestly dangerous disconnect between what we expect and what's actually out there. We go in with totally innocent intentions, peaceful hikes, enjoying the gorgeous upstate New York nature, some classic childhood exploration. But the reality our subjects stumbled into, it's terrifying. We're talking murder suspects, bizarre stick symbols, and literally hidden underground layers. So let's break down exactly how these seemingly innocent expeditions went so horribly wrong.
Case 1. The Skipping Man.
Now, what's really interesting about this case is it happens in a tiny, off-the-grid rural community. The kind of place with exactly one supermarket and a single police officer. And in that town lived a guy everyone called Hector. He was pretty short, maybe 5'3", but built like an absolute ox. And he always wore the exact same outfit, a stained white tank top, royal blue pants, all framed by this dirty gray beard. But the detail that gave everyone this completely false sense of security? Hector skipped everywhere. Literally skipped. People just figured he was a harmless, wandering eccentric, but as you'll see, that blissful ignorance was completely a mask. So things escalate shockingly fast. One day, a local hiker heads deep into the untamed wilderness and actually hears voices. He sneaks up and finds Hector, who is totally alone, basically arguing with himself in these distinct, shifting voices. He's bouncing instantly from pure rage to weeping, and then suddenly, the harmless skipping man vanishes, and he is replaced by a screaming, sprinting pursuer, actively chasing the hiker through the trees. But the real chilling revelation came later. When the hiker reported this, the local sheriff literally turned pale, because years prior, human remains were found in that exact spot in the woods. The exact moment the situation totally fractured was when Hector's angry persona actually noticed our hiker sneaking around. Without even looking, he just screamed, "He's hiding behind the tree! This time you can't let him get away!" I mean, just process the visceral panic of that moment for a second. You're miles from civilization, and the harmless town eccentric just turned this violent split personality directly at you. Hector vanished into the woods that very day. Even with the police rushing straight to the scene, he was literally never seen again. And it leaves us, and local law enforcement, with this chilling, lingering question. Was Hector just suffering from severe mental illness, or was he the missing link to a gruesome, completely unsolved crime? Honestly, we may never know.
Case 2. Midnight Visitors.
Let's move to the next case and see how this builds, because this one takes us on a multi-day hiking trip deep into the vastly underrated, sprawling mountains of upstate New York. It is a terrifying lesson in methodical escalation. Night 1, a couple wakes up to footsteps and high-pitched giggling just circling their tent in the dead of night. By dawn, they find rocks strangely stacked all around their campsite. By the second night, the harassment spirals into absolute chaos, running, uncontrollable cackling, and something violently shaking their tent. But before the total chaos of the second night fully erupted, our hiker was jolted awake by whispers right outside the thin nylon of the tent. A really soft female voice just said, "Come outside, Artie." "Yeah, Artie, please come outside. We're waiting." Artie was his name. Just think about how sinister that is. How on earth could unknown individuals miles deep in the pitch-black woods possibly know his specific name? After the chaos outside finally stopped, Artie unzipped the tent just a tiny crack. And what he saw completely shatters any logical explanation of a simple animal encounter or some casual prank. Standing maybe 20 feet away was a young woman, probably in her 20s, and she's wearing this perfectly clean white dress in the middle of the muddy midnight woods, just smiling and waving right at the unzipped tent. It's such an incredibly jarring, impossible image. It just does not belong in the natural world. When you step back and really catalog the physical evidence left behind, this moves way beyond a potential prank.
We're talking uncontrollable, cackling laughter mixed with sudden, deep voices aggressively demanding they exit the tent. And when dawn finally broke, the visitors were totally gone, sure, but they left behind those strange rock formations and bizarre, unknown symbols constructed from tied sticks. It points to something highly coordinated, and honestly, highly sinister. Case 3. The Hidden Cellar.
This is perhaps our most claustrophobic case. 3 lifelong friends were out hunting for caves deep in the woods when they stumbled upon this cabin. I mean, really, it was just a one-room wooden square completely off the grid. No plumbing, no electricity, no roads, nothing. But hidden beneath the dust and debris in the corner was a rusted trapdoor, leading straight down into an unnaturally freezing stone-walled basement. Even before they pulled up that trapdoor, the warning signs were definitely there. The air inside the cabin was incredibly dry, almost hard to breathe. And then came this absolutely overwhelming odor of rotten meat just pouring up from the dark. That was accompanied by the muffled, rhythmic sound of something really heavy just dragging in the dirt beneath the floorboards. So the crucial point here is the contrast. These explorers were expecting empty ruins, or maybe at worst, some trapped wildlife. Instead, sitting down there in that pitch-black cellar was a completely normal-looking guy. Clean-shaven, green t-shirt, jeans. But his behavior was highly abnormal, honestly horrifying. He was dragging his right foot, which is what was causing that awful dragging sound, breathing incredibly heavily and mumbling in a totally unrecognized language, completely unresponsive to the friends yelling down at him. And here is where this standoff turns into pure nightmare fuel. They're shouting down to him multiple times, trying to see if he needs help, but they get absolutely zero response. Then, the man stops limping. He turns around and just stares up at them. He wasn't mumbling anymore. He wasn't breathing heavily. He just stared with these completely lifeless eyes. And right as the narrator grabbed the ladder to escape, the man took one single, deliberate step toward them. The friends obviously fled the woods and immediately brought local authorities right back to the cabin. But here is where we hit a terrifying lack of closure. The police investigated the room, searched the cellar, and found absolutely zero trace of the man. The stone basement was completely empty. They checked all the local missing persons reports and nothing matched. It was literally as if this strange, dragging occupant had just evaporated into thin air before the cops even arrived. Conclusion: beware the deep woods. And this brilliantly illustrates what happens when we tie these 3 seemingly disparate case files together, because an overarching lesson really crystallizes. In case 1, the screaming pursuer vanished entirely. In case 2, the pristine woman in a white dress left only bizarre stick symbols before totally vanishing. And in case 3, a man dragging his foot in a hidden stone cellar evaporated before the police even got there. The one common thread connecting all of these is the sudden, inexplicable disappearance of the threat, leaving behind only the physical evidence that they were ever there at all. So as you process these cases, you really have to ask yourself, are these just incredibly rare, isolated incidents of mental illness and maybe some elaborate pranks? Or is there something entirely undocumented, highly structured, and deeply sinister waiting for us just a few miles off the trail? Keep that in mind the next time you think about leaving the safety grid behind. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, stay curious.